And it's great to be in this particular venue, this bridge between the wonderful Library of Birmingham and the Rep, both in various ways having contacts with the Arts Council. And yes, I'd like to regard this as the beginning of a conversation. This is the first conversation I've had with a grouping of people from research libraries. I think the conversation is timely because, as Madeline was pointing out, links between what we're doing in the Arts Council and universities and higher education institutions around the country are becoming closer. And it's a kind of approach from both directions, if you like. And I'll come on to mention some of the links that are developing between universities and cultural institutions and the value of those partnerships. And I think one of the themes of what I'm going to be saying today is partnerships are going to be the name of the game going forwards as the pressure increases on us. It won't lessen. Whether it's the pressure of increased student numbers on university side, pressure on budgets, pressure on local government budgets on our side. And despite the fact that the higher education sector and the arts sector can both be cited as very definite national successes and important economic drivers, we've all felt the pinch. And in the case of the Arts Council, we've had our grant reduced by around 36% since 2010. We've been partly mitigated by lottery money, but with local government, our key partners, our key traditional partners, undergoing very considerable cuts going forwards to 2018, and we ourselves being asked to model anything between 5% a year and up to 20% a year from 2016 onwards. You can see it's going to be interesting times ahead. And this is at a time when the creative industries, and I firmly believe that if you like, the traditional arts and culture sector, if you can call it that, provides the bedrock and the talent and the fuel and the innovation behind the creative industry sector. They're growing at more than twice the rate of the economy generally. So we're important. And we've got to find new ways of making sure we can continue to do what we do and do it better. But it's not going to be easy. And I've spent a lot of time in the last couple of weeks, and we've been talking to all our funded bodies, sharing with them the graphs of doom that are coming out of the Treasury, that are at the back of various Treasury budget documents, and that we've been presented with by our parent department, DCMS, in order that we kind of get people thinking about what new things they could do and what new partnerships we can enter into. Because all of us who are in receipt of public funds in various ways know that we need to demonstrate the impact of what we're doing. And so it's interesting reflecting on some of the similarities between the worlds of higher education and the arts. And we were talking just now about the increasingly actual closer relationships. I mean, you could mention Derby Theatre. Just before I left this morning, I signed various innovation documents to transfer interests from Middlesbrough Introduced Modern Art to the University of Teesside. Which is going to be a marvellous thing, which is going to benefit the University of Teesside in terms of what it can offer its students, but also its linkage to the town where it is, and its linkage and ability to attract students from that town. And where this particular institution is, you see it. It's in a prime position. It's a beautiful facility. It's got a lot of resources there. Intrinsic and extrinsic, if you like, but the way that it can connect better with the town, there is something to do there. We've got a publication coming out in a week or so's time, which actually looks at this issue of the linkage of institutions and the places where they are, and then it hints at the role that higher education institutions could potentially play in that. We've been doing a lot of work with the University of Birmingham, and the University of Birmingham are very interested in upping their cultural offer for their students and defining what that is, but again, linking to the city, linking to this place that defines what they are. And we've been working with them, for example, on an app for our Reading Lives project. So there are linkages there, and I think there are linkages that can develop. And the Research Excellence Framework has an emphasis on impact. We've got an emphasis on impact. We need to demonstrate impact. I think we can learn from each other. We can certainly learn from you in terms of the work that you've done in defining that and describing that impact. And I think, again, we have quite a lot to do there. Access. That's another one of our themes and one of your themes. And there's a whole issue of open access, but don't ask me that. I'll refer all those questions to Madeline. And the Finch report has led to a successful pilot scheme allowing access to research through public libraries, an area that the Arts Council, and remember we have a development role for libraries, and its close working relationship with the Society of Chief Librarians is delighted to see happening. You research libraries have been looking at the case for the value that you provide, and you need to be able to describe that, like we need to describe all our libraries and the value that they provide to their local communities. And I think one of the things that we're all struggling with is does the case for libraries and making the case for libraries get harder as the traditional role of libraries in providing access to content and the way that they do that. And that role, most frequently mentioned and valued by researchers and managers, becomes less visible as digital technology becomes more and more important and the tools of choice. So what's the role of a physical space as well as a digital space? So arguing for one's uniqueness in a digital age becomes all the more harder. And as we all embrace digitalization, we're potentially in the confusing position of simultaneously digitalizing ourselves to the point of invisibility. I don't think we're there yet, but there's an interesting paradox there. So impact is a key word, and in the Arts Council, over the last few years, the impact of our work has been repeatedly scrutinised. We've had to be able to demonstrate our funding that we get works not just for one section of society, but for many sections of society. It's part of our mission. The Arts Council's strategic mission is great art and culture for everyone. So create the conditions for great art and culture to be made, produced, and made available, and then as many people as possible to benefit from it, providing opportunities for every community and as many people as possible within those communities. We do know that there are a portion of the population who are resistant to culture, but actually all the work that we do suggests that there is the vast majority of the population, around 90%, who are not resistant to culture and who want to participate and often don't know how. So over the years we've had to show that we offer value and that arts and culture organisations are lean, financially resilient, and we've had to demonstrate that for every £1 spent on the arts, £4 is generated for the economy, and then we've had to back that up again. We can't just say it once, we have to say it again. We have to back it up, we have to do some new research, we have to foil the treasury again, as it were. So at this time when the economy is at the top of the agenda and is a key cause for concern, and according to the graphs, austerity is going to be with us for a long time, I think both the higher education sector and the arts have strong stories to tell about what we've done in the last few years and what we can do, providing the conditions are right in the next few years. We've talked about cities already today. Cities that have found the life of the city enhanced by the higher education institutions that are in them. Nottingham, Lincoln, Birmingham's an excellent example. Also home to some of the world-leading arts organisations, and here we are in the theatre and the library. And similarly, towns and cities where cultural investment is bringing new visitors, attracting new businesses, giving the population new confidence. And this is in respect of towns. So look at Margate on the south coast, or my own hometown of Stockton-on-Tees in the northeast. And in fact, if we turn to the northeast, we've got there some very, very good examples of how investment in culture over a long period can actually be a valuable investment in the community and the economy of that particular locality, in terms of investment in human capital, but also investment in attractiveness as a tourism destination. and attracting other forms of inward investment. And if you look at Gateshead in Newcastle, that started quite a few years ago now with the Angel of the North. But the Angel of the North actually had a whole generation almost of artistic development before it. And when it was erected on a former colliery site, there was a great deal of scepticism still. And it's built over the last 20 years with political help and prudent investment, a lot of it European, a lot of it from Arts Council sources, to provide a cultural infrastructure that's excellent, that's well used, and is part of the attractiveness of Gateshead itself, with Gateshead able to produce an economic report that proves the value of the investment over time. But one of the things that we find from that is it's not just about a one-off thing. You can't just plonk a thing like Middlesbrough Institute of Modern Art down somewhere and it becomes a success. And you have to work at that success. You have to bed your roots deep. And you have to make the kind of partnerships that we've now got with the University of Teesside to make sure all the possible players around it are making use of that resource to its maximum capacity. So that project took courage and conviction. It was a work of great creative ambition, but the impact wasn't properly understood when all this activity was going on. But now we've got that experience, and now we can use that experience to extrapolate other possibilities. And that's one of the things that at the Arts Council we're having to do an awful lot of. Earlier this year, we published an evidence review of the economic contribution of public libraries, which looks at the existing research literature on the subject. And what emerged strongly from that, as with arts generally, is that the true contribution of libraries is complex and interwoven with many other aspects of society, very difficult to prove a pound going in produces this effect here. So you've got to look at it in the round. But in some instances, and as with this wonderful new library, it's possible to have studies that show the direct economic impact of libraries and that their contribution is much greater than the simple headline figures. And one of the problems we have in actually demonstrating this is that the impact is shown quite a long way downstream from the source and is a product of the intrinsic quality and work that they do, and the investment in engaging young people and getting young people into the habit of reading, of doing research, of using resources to find things out in new ways. So you've got the early access to literature, the environment they provide for parents and children to share time and books, the access for older people and minorities through training, self-education, research and digital services offered for the unemployed, through the work they do to support frontline health services through schemes like Books on Prescription, which we help pilot with the Society of Chief Librarians. And I think that's the world of public libraries. Now, you're all involved in research libraries, and I think the wider impact of research libraries is something that we should be exploring, particularly at a time when the significance of the knowledge economy and the creative industries is becoming more understood. I'm totally sorry, I appear to be losing my voice as I'm speaking, but I'll try and hold out to the end. Research libraries hold material that can fuel that knowledge economy, and the challenge is to discover how you can make more use, I guess, of your uniquely rich collections, how you can make them more available, and increase their social and economic impact and secure a return on that asset. And I think that's something we'd be interested in a conversation on. And the power of higher education in the arts, including museums and libraries, that can help revive communities is likely to be an increasingly important topic because of the devolution debate, again, that we've mentioned earlier on. And because many economists now consider the future of economic growth lies in the development of our major cities, and in our major cities, universities have a huge role to play, clearly. So for all of us, our hope to expressing the impact of our work will be in demonstrating how we can reach into those communities and play our part in creating not one economic revival at the centre, but a multitude of revivals at the margins. And very clearly, public libraries have a role to play in this, and they'll be greatly enhanced by links to higher education and research libraries generally. And as a development agency for libraries, i.e. we've got responsibility for developing policy and looking forwards. We don't have very much funding responsibility at the moment, but we do have some money we can use as levers. We now have a stake in the knowledge economy as well as the creative economy, and I think exploiting those links is something we need to do in the future. In 2013, we published Envisioning the Library of the Future, the title of a report which I never am able to say easily, which laid out what partners across the sector saw how the library might develop, indeed must develop if it's to keep its place at the heart of community life, at a time when local authority funding is being cut very hard. Now, you may well be familiar with the document with its core themes, which I hope are going to be largely reinforced by the forthcoming CCART report into public libraries. So at its core is a recognition of the role libraries can play at the heart of a community, their significance for Wi-Fi and digital access, and the vital importance of developing the library workforce and finding ways to involve communities in the running of their libraries. And libraries could have an increasingly valuable role in supporting business and economic growth by information and skills development. So we've been promoting the Enterprising Libraries Initiative, built on the experience of the British Library's Business and IP Centre, to help provide dedicated business centres in libraries and urban centres, and we're going to be evaluating the impact of that programme. So the Library of the Future might be a place where one room holds information that you can put to creative use in another room, places for researching and for making and creating. So I welcome the chance to discuss how we can widen access to all of our nation's collections and make people aware of the remarkable contribution that the research sector makes to our lives. At the Arts Council, and this is something that's happening significantly next week, we've been putting forward what we call our holistic case for public investment in arts and culture, which begins with a belief that investment in arts and culture is good in itself, that actually investment in culture and having culture available for people to engage with is a good thing, has good effects on people intrinsically. But actually it does other things as well, and other things that might interest other government departments that we can increasingly show the impact of. So for example, health, well-being, happiness of society in profound and interrelated ways, to educational outcomes at school level, but also the importance of, at higher education levels, of the link between institutions and the places where they are. And then the economic impacts around tourism, the creative economy, and as the bedrock of creative industries. So what we're doing next week is publishing a magazine called Create, which has a lot of contributions from slightly odd sources, so people who are respected in their particular fields but maybe haven't spoken about the arts much before, who are going to talk about what difference arts and culture can make to various aspects of our life as a nation. And as part of that, we've got Sir Howard Davis writing about why the arts represent good value to the taxpayer, but he begins by talking about the Research Excellence Framework and talking about impact. And his conclusion is that for all of us in arts and academia, there's actually no alternative to playing what he calls the impact game. Now, I think for all of us in this room, this is a game we've been playing for some time, and we're beginning to understand the rules. There are some in the cultural sector to whom it's still early days, and they've got something to learn. But this is why we've got to keep talking, because between us, we have the skills and the resources and the material to play this game well for us and for those public outcomes that we care about. So I want to conclude now by saying thank you for inviting me here today. I do see this as the beginning of a conversation. I'm actually interested in your ideas as to what you'd be liking us at the Arts Council, who have this policy responsibility for public libraries, if you like, but increasingly richer relationships with higher education, and by definition, research libraries. What you think we should be thinking about? What would you like us to be coming and talking to you further about? Because I think you've caught us at a time when our minds are very, very open. I think necessarily so because we need these partnerships to do all the things that we want to do in the future. So thank you.